Hello, everyone. Welcome to How to Set Healthy Boundaries. I'm going to give a few moments to make sure this is working, make sure there are people here. Hello, everyone. Okay, so welcome. Be balanced. I am super excited to be sharing this information with you today. It's 5 o'clock, so I'm going to be giving just a couple minutes to let some people come on. How are you doing? And I'm so excited to be sharing this information. So welcome. If you're here, just type in a little hello and a little emoji, a few words just so I know you're here, and we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome. I'm super excited to share this with you. So today I'm going to be talking to you about boundary setting, what it is, and I'm going to be taking you through a few steps on how to get healthy boundaries in your life. When you don't have healthy boundaries, you're not able to show up in the world as your authentic, true self, and you suffer ultimately. So in this workshop, I'm going to be sharing with you what healthy boundaries are, why they're important, how to know you need healthy boundaries. There are some really key identifiers to let you know that there's something that's missing in your life, how to set them. I'm going to take you through a 5-step simple process to start implementing boundaries in your life right now, and then some barriers that will come up when you start implementing the boundaries in your life. So let's go ahead and get started. So what are boundaries? I'm going to start with a little example. So here's you. I'm drawing a stick figure because that's how I draw. So here's you. You're walking along in life, and then you encounter another person, someone you know. And then they start sharing something with you that makes you feel a certain way, whether they're being negative or they're talking badly about someone else, or something about them is bringing negative energy to you and it makes you feel depleted. So that is something that can happen. What a boundary is, it's like you can imagine like an invisible force field around you. You have control over this force field. You can decide whether you want this in your bubble, in your boundary force field, or whether you don't. So you decide what you will and will not allow to affect you in your energy, okay? And this applies also not just to people, but into things you consume. For example, the media. I know TVs don't really look like this anymore, but you get the idea. So when you're watching the news, sometimes it might just be on, or you might just be scrolling through Facebook, not intentionally looking to learn something or to get like news, and it pops up. When you don't have boundaries around this type of a thing, you start absorbing this negativity. You start absorbing things that you don't want to absorb. It starts coming at you. And when you don't have that force field around you and those boundaries set up, it's going to impact how you feel. So imagine this circle gone and you have all of this energy coming at you. People sharing things with you, people who are feeling sad, people who are wanting you to help them when you don't have the energy to do it. News that's on, negativity in TV shows or things like that. When you don't have your force field up, you absorb it and it impacts the way you feel, okay? So if you know the movie The Boy in the Bubble, it's an old movie. But basically, the force field is a protection, like your own little imaginary bubble. And you determine what you'd like to impact you and what you wouldn't, okay? So just a little visual of what a boundary is. And I'm going to be talking, there's all kinds of boundaries, but the boundaries that I'm specifically talking about are emotional boundaries. There's also physical boundaries, which obviously are very important as well. But I'm talking about emotional boundaries, the things that affect your emotional well-being. So, why are boundaries important? They're important for your self-care. And I'm not talking about the type of self-care where you take a bubble bath and you get a pedicure. Wow, that is very nice and also very important. When you're truly caring for yourself, you're stronger, you're better able to stand up for yourself, and you just feel better and are able to like live up to your fullest potential to the maximum capacity. So boundaries are important just for you to take care of yourself, like your suit of armor, if you will. They're also important so you communicate your needs and being able to share with other people. This is what I will tolerate. This is what I won't tolerate. This is okay with me. This is not okay with me. And I know a lot of the times, and we'll talk about this a little more when barriers come up, communicating needs can be a little bit difficult because maybe your needs are different than someone else's. Something you cannot tolerate is something other people can tolerate. And therefore, sometimes you may feel like, well, gosh, maybe I shouldn't feel this way. And then there's some guilt that comes with it. So having the strength and the wherewithal to actually communicate, hey, this is what I need. This is important to me. And then also, it's important so that you can make time for positive interactions. So if you're spending all of your time helping someone else or doing what someone else wants you to do, or watching the news and absorbing data and information that's draining you, you're not going to have the time for the positive things that you want to have in your life, the positive interactions and the experiences that really lift you up and fill you up. And they're also important so that you can set healthy limits, so that you can be clear on what you need and what you don't need outside of your bubble. All right. So now I'm going to share with you how to know if you need healthy boundaries. So I'm just checking in. Hi, guys. Oh, good to see you, Karen. Okay, so you know you need boundaries if, have you ever gone to hang out with somebody? And I know it can be challenging because maybe it's a friend, somebody you care about, maybe it's a family member, and then you come home and you just feel like you need to decompress. You just feel drained, like you want to take a nap or that you need to just sit in a quiet room for a while. Thumbs up if you've ever felt that way. I know I have. So you know you need boundaries if you're finding that happening, right? Yeah, totally. Yep, you know it. So you know you need the boundaries if in any circumstance you feel like you don't have the energy. It just depletes you. That's how you know that that's an area where you need boundaries. Also, if you're not able to prioritize your needs. So let's say, for example, one of the things that you really committed to is being healthy and eating healthy food. And then you go over to your family's house and they're all eating something that you've decided you're not going to eat for now, like a big piece of cake or whatever. And then somebody gives you a hard time for not eating the cake. Oh my gosh, you never eat the cake. You are so, like, just have one piece, right? But if you have that one piece, you're not prioritizing your needs. And at this point, you need to take care of what it is that you're doing and not worry about what other people are thinking and not worry about those pressures that they put on you. That's part of your bubble. You're taking care of yourself. So you need to prioritize your needs. And if you find that there are areas of your life where you're putting yourself second over and over and over, that's how you know that you need a boundary. Also, when your feelings and your actions don't match up. So have you ever been in a circumstance where you said you would do something even though you didn't really want to do it? And then when you're doing the thing, you just feel like, gosh, why did I agree to do this? I know there was a time in my life where I would say yes to everything. I felt guilty saying no, so I overcommitted myself. And when I was doing those things, my thoughts were, why did I say I would do this? This is not serving me. This is not the right thing for me. And it just really depleted my energy. So my feelings and what I was doing were not matching up. I was not doing what I felt I needed to do. I was feeling what I thought other people thought I should do. And then another one is if you're feeling resentful. You're feeling resentful to your friend for constantly asking things of you, or for making you feel guilty, or your family member who always makes you feel a certain way and you feel just resentful toward them. It's not a healthy relationship. That's a relationship where you need to figure out a way to set boundaries. So let's talk about boundaries. There are healthy boundaries and there are unhealthy boundaries. So I'm going to start just by explaining examples of healthy boundaries. One way you know you have healthy boundaries is if you have high self-esteem. You feel good about what you're saying, you feel good about what you're doing, and it's overall just a very positive way of living. You don't have to make any excuses for what you are and what you aren't doing. Another way you know you have good, healthy boundaries in a relationship specifically is it's an equal partnership. There isn't one person doing more or taking more than the other person. Everybody's on equal ground. Everybody feels respected and everybody feels heard and seen. That's a key that that's a healthy relationship. Another one is that you're comfortable and willing to say yes and no when you feel like saying yes and or no. Is it something you want to do? Yes, it is. Is it not something you want to do? It's okay to say no. And we're going to get to that because it's very difficult to say no sometimes. But you're able to articulate yes and no. This is good for me. This is not good for me. That shows that you have healthy boundaries. Another one is that you are able to separate your needs from other people's needs. So imagine, here's my other stick figure. Here's you. You know what you need. And then here's Aunt Sally. Here's what she thinks is needed. This is what she needs. You're able to separate, okay, that's good for her. That's not right for me. And that's okay. You're able to separate what you need from what they need. And this happens a lot in codependent relationships. So we'll get to that in unhealthy boundaries. But when it's healthy, you're able to appreciate where they are, but also be able to stay where you are, in your lane, if you will. And then another example is you are making healthy choices. So when you're making healthy choices, it's not just in regard to your exercising and eating and things like that. It has to do with your mental and physical and emotional well-being. So is it a healthy choice for you to go to that party? Obviously right now it's not. But is it a healthy choice for you to work 15 hours a day? Is it a healthy choice for you to, example, have the birthday cake? You decide. You're making the choice that's healthy for you, not what's healthy for someone else. And it feels really authentic to you. Examples of unhealthy boundaries. One example is that you share too much. Some people, I'm sure you know them, they talk and share too much. They take it all, right? In the opposite regard, the people who are too closed off, they don't share enough. They don't share anything. So closed off. And oftentimes, people will close themselves off because they don't feel heard or seen. And so that's a good sign that there aren't good boundaries. Sharing too much or too closed off. Another example of an unhealthy boundary is that you feel responsible for the happiness of other people. So I'm just going to put like a little happy face. You feel like you need to make everybody else happy. It's your responsibility to make them happy. But it's not, even if you love them. Your responsibility is to make you happy. Their responsibility is to make themselves happy. So if you are thinking and your happiness is tied in with their happiness, there's no healthy boundary there. And that kind of goes to the next thing I wanted to talk about, is you not only feel like you need to make them happy, you're not happy if they're not happy. So if you've ever had someone in your life where you're in a room with them and you can kind of feel their energy and you look at them and you can tell they're upset about something, and then you start feeling bad, That's a sign that there's not good boundaries. They're upset about something, but that doesn't mean you need to be upset about it. It's their thing. You need to stay in your bubble. Another example of not having healthy boundaries is you're not able to say no. You feel obligated to do things that you don't want to do. You are doing more than your share out of guilt, or sometimes people will say they're doing more than their share because they love someone. But if it's bringing it back to the signs of unhealthy boundaries and that you're feeling drained or used, or that it's not an equal partnership, that means that the boundaries are unhealthy. And it's not always up to the other person to know that. That's why we're doing this workshop, because everybody's level of boundaries is different. And we'll get to that. But if you're not able to communicate to someone, well, you know, this is a boundary I have. This is something I cannot do. And I hope you'll understand. So you have unhealthy boundaries if you're constantly saying yes and unable to say no. Yes, we all need the bubble, Karen. Seriously. I was talking to my daughter the other day and I was saying, like, let's just get in our bubbles, and like, how much stronger would our relationship be if we're able to be in our healthy bubble and then be able to see each other in our bubbles. It doesn't mean that we don't care about each other. It just means we're protecting our own energy. So I had her pick a color for her bubble. And you can do that too. Like, just truly imagine the bubble around you and whatever color it is that lifts you up or makes you feel protected. So the visualization is also a good thing for the bubble. Okay, and the other thing is, for unhealthy boundaries, is you are sacrificing your own needs, wants, plans, dreams for other people. So you have a plan for your life, okay? Sacrifice. You have a plan for your life, or even just a plan for your evening. And you are giving that up and sacrificing that to please other people, for other people. And then ultimately, you're suffering as a result. And finally, one of the biggest unhealthy boundaries is when you are people pleasing. So I'm going to talk about that for a minute. People pleasing. So as women, we oftentimes fall into wanting people to like us. And we feel validated when someone likes us, or when we think someone likes us. Conversely, when we feel someone doesn't like us, we feel like we're not good enough. People pleasing comes in when we're trying hard to make someone like us. And that is the best way to suffer, is when you're constantly trying to be or do something that is against your values or not in line with your feelings to help someone else and make them like you. That's not the way it works. People will like you when you are you. So people pleasing examples is saying yes when you want to say no, doing more than you really feel like you should, giving in, changing your values so that you can fit in, trying to fit in, right? It's part of our evolutionary biology to want to fit in. But that was like in tribal days when it was imperative for survival. We're not in tribal days anymore. And I'm not saying don't fit in to the point where you are like an outcast. I mean, don't please people to the detriment of your well-being, okay? That is an example of an unhealthy boundary. So here is how you can fix it. And it's super simple. And when I'm talking about setting boundaries, I'm talking not just about boundaries with people, I'm talking about boundaries with yourself. So when I was talking about ingesting social media and reading the news and watching the news and all of that, that's also part of boundary setting. So I'm addressing both of those when I talk about these 5 steps, even though the steps themselves are a little bit different. So the first thing you want to do in both situations is get to know yourself. Get to know what it is you need and what works for you and what doesn't work for you. Ask yourself these questions. Is this good for me? Am I okay with this? And if you come up with, you know what, this isn't good for me. I'm not okay with this, that's a sign to you. What am I okay with? What am I not okay with? What drains me? What fills me up? And this is important because it's different for everyone. I was watching a video by Glennon Doyle, and she was talking about how she's really learned how to set boundaries and say no, even though she feels like her boundaries are a little bit more stringent than other people's, but it's because she suffers even more when she doesn't have them, because she's very sensitive. And so she needs that extra time. She needs the time to refill her tank. And when she gives too much, it's very easy for her to just spiral and fall into that valley of depression and sadness and overwhelming anxiety. So her boundaries are a lot higher than some people who are a little bit more outgoing or a little bit more, out there. Maybe things wouldn't bother them. But the truth is you need to figure that out for yourself. What it is that you need for your life. Then you're going to define it. Okay, so I'm okay with this. What does that mean? And I'm going to give you an example. It's kind of a personal example. So every day, I really look forward to going to bed and grabbing my Kindle and reading my book. And it's like the thing I do right before bed that just really calms me down and it just gets me ready to go to sleep. It just so happens at that time of the night is when my husband wants to talk. He wants to share what happened during the day. He wants to talk about work. He wants to ask me how my day was. And that's great. Like, it's good that he wants to communicate. But that is the time I need to fill up my tank. So I noticed that, like, over time, I would get irritated and I wasn't listening to him, but I was like, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to hurt his feelings because he's trying to talk to me. So I had to define for myself, well, what is it that I need for me so that I can better show up for him? And for me, I need that time. I need that time when I'm reading my book to be uninterrupted, right? And so once I figure that out, communicate it. Say what it is you need. And this can be the hardest part because, like I said, you can feel really bad when you're communicating. You don't want to hurt someone's feelings. But if you say what you need, you know what? This is my one time of the day where I'm able to just totally decompress. And when you come in here, it makes me feel stressed out and it makes it hard for me to go to sleep. And just make a request. Can we have that discussion before I get in bed? Communicate what you need. Make it simple. Don't over-explain it, right? Like, don't backpedal and be like, I really love you, but I need this and that and this and that. Just say, you know what, this is what I need for me. And if it makes you feel better to communicate, I request that in the future we have this conversation before I get in bed. Or can we set aside this time between here and here to have this conversation? And then once I'm in bed with the covers up, that means it's not the right time to talk about your day and ask me questions. So just stay simple. Make a request. Make it simple. And the last one is either set consequences or say why it's important. So setting consequences is more when somebody's taking your energy and maybe even knows it. Saying why it's important is really talking from your heart and explaining, this is important to me because I really want to show up for you and listen when you're sharing these things because I love you. But when you do this, I don't listen because I'm frustrated and I'm trying to read my book. So that they understand. Okay, it's not because she doesn't love me, it's because she needs this time. And then if she has this time, she'll be listening to me when the time is right. Okay, so get to know yourself. Define what your boundary is just for you so that you're clear. Communicate what you need to the other person keep it simple, and then set consequences or say why it's important. And that, like I said, this is to be true with your own personal in taking in social media news. So get to know yourself. You know what? I get really worked up when I watch the live news, when I watch the news every night. That's a problem. Watching the news makes me feel stressed out. Instead of saying what you need, tell yourself, you know what? I need to not watch the live news anymore, but I still want the information, so I'm going to get my news here, or whatever it is. And then keep it simple, you know, I'm going to stop watching the news. And then consequences, it's a natural consequence, honestly, in this type of situation. You're going to have a natural consequence if you don't set those boundaries. You're going to have anxiety, you're going to have stress, you're going to feel depleted and drained. So in that regard, it's a little different. The issues and the barriers to this typically arise mostly when it has to deal with other people and sharing your boundaries with other people. So moving on to the barriers. One of the main barriers to setting boundaries is fear. Fear of being rejected, fear of abandonment, fear of not being a good person. So growing up, I was always, I'm sure you were too, we were given the message, put others' needs before yours. Think about others first. Do things for others first. It's better to give than to receive, like all of that. And so we were taught that in order to be a good person, we need to say yes, we need to be helpful, we need to please people, we need to be good, okay? But that isn't necessarily true. You need to be good to yourself. And in being good to yourself doesn't mean that you don't love that other person. It means that you love them enough to put up a boundary, okay? Because you're protecting yourself. Another thing that comes up is guilt. I am a bad friend, parent, daughter, mother, all of the above, if I don't do this. I'm a bad person if I don't help my daughter with this, if I don't come to the rescue of my friend, if I don't sit on the phone with my friend who is chatting for an hour about herself. You're a bad person. You feel guilty, right? So back to examples. My daughter is very emotionally needy, and I didn't even realize that I was doing this. We had a very codependent relationship. My happiness was tied in with hers, same with hers and mine, because we were feeling each other's emotions all the time. And so I was constantly worrying about her, so much so that I started developing massive anxiety. But it wasn't my anxiety, it was hers. So I wasn't putting boundaries up there to protect myself. And the reason why is because if I ever said no, or if I ever didn't do the thing that I thought I needed to do, or always there, or whatever it was, I felt guilty. Man, mom guilt is no joke, right? Like daughter guilt, no joke. I should just say woman guilt is no joke. Like it's almost like we came into this world feeling guilty, am I right? Don't feel guilty for helping yourself and doing what's right for you. Just don't. In fact, it's quite the opposite. When I was in that situation where I was entwined and codependent with my daughter, I was suffering and I wasn't able to show up as my authentic self. It impacted my relationship with my husband, with my family, affected how I was showing up at work because I wasn't filled up. So the guilt, first let that go, but also know that putting yourself first isn't selfish. Self-care isn't selfish. Boundaries aren't selfish. They're important for everyone. And it's important for you to start setting them right away. So if you're here, it's likely you have areas of your life that you feel you need boundaries in. And I'll get to some questions in just a moment. But I wanted to let you know that one of the biggest hurdles that my clients have to finding happiness is that they don't have healthy boundaries. And that's something that I work on with my clients all of the time, identifying and setting healthy boundaries. So if this workshop resonated with you, if you found it to be helpful, I want you to get on a call with me. And what I do is I give hour-long free consultations to anyone who is feeling unhappy, whether it be they know why they're happy or they don't know why they're happy. Sometimes it's due to boundaries, sometimes it's something else. But on this hour-long call, what we're going to do is walk through each area of your life, analyze where you are, and I'm going to tell you what is standing in the way of you finding happiness. I'm going to give you an expert perspective based on what you share, what exactly is blocking you from feeling happy and feeling content every day. So on this call, I'm going to walk you step by step and let you know exactly what steps you need to take in order to start feeling happy and content and fulfilled right away. So just imagine if you were able to wake up every day feeling purposeful, feeling content, doing the things that you want to do throughout the day that fill you up, being able to show up with your loved ones and really give your full self to them and be fully present for them, and each day going to bed and feeling like you really lived this day to the fullest. Just imagine being able to live a life that's like that. It's totally possible. And on this call, it's going to be totally clear to you what's keeping you from having that now. Okay, so I know some of the reasons why people don't schedule this call is because they're too busy, or they think that it's going to be a super involved, long process, and they think it's going to be a lot of work. But listen, there's nothing more important than you being happy. Nothing. And getting on this call is really the first step to finding happiness in your life. And that's what I'm here for. So I'm going to type in the comments a link to schedule a call with me. We'll get on the call and we'll get started on it right away. Okay? So I'll put that in the comments, and I want to open up to all of you for questions. So here is my link. And let me just take a minute to look. Yeah, Glennon Doyle is amazing. Yeah, having divorce and teen girls. Girl, I feel you on that. Definitely. I can definitely help you with that. You've been having issues with your mom, sister, brother, family. I know. Family. Really, truthfully, family is one of those things where, like, you always want to be there for them. And that's where guilt comes in, right? Or fear of being looked down upon because you love them so much. That's why boundaries are so important. And it really is, there really is a up and down to it all, right? Oh, good. Scheduling a call with me. That's awesome, Valen. Yeah, just click on there. Super simple. We'll get on a call on one of the times and we'll walk through it. It'll be awesome. Yeah. All right. Any other questions? Yeah, people please tendencies. Yeah. I was a huge people pleaser for a while. And it's so exhausting. And I remember the first time I heard it, I'm like, I'm not a people pleaser, but yeah, I was. And once I learned that, and I learned how to not be a people pleaser, it changed my life, I'll tell you. It really did. Yeah, I was a better mom, sister, friend, person. So much happier. Thank you. I'm so glad you were here. Great. So if there are questions, if you have questions you want to type here, go ahead and type. If you think of something after this live call, you can type it in, or you can send me a direct message if there's anything that comes up question-wise in regards to boundaries or whatever, or we can just get on the call, like just get on a call and chat. It's simple. So yeah, any good books to read that you think are helpful? As far as boundary setting, I know that there are some really good books about boundaries. I'm gonna have to look it up and type it into the comments because I did see a really good book, but I don't remember the name of it. Okay, Karen, so let me look at it after I do this call and I'll just reply to your comment on this post. Yeah, there's a ton of really good books. Yeah, and I have a background in psychology and I've never learned anything like this, which I should have because it's something that everybody needs to know. So yeah. All right. So awesome. I'm so glad you guys were here. So good. Just send me a message if anything comes up, or later on you have questions about anything that I talked about. You can watch this again if you need any refreshers on anything. So thank you so much for showing up and doing the work on yourself. Because when you work on yourself, honestly, it's good for everyone, right? The whole air mask thing. All right, guys. Thank you so much for coming. So good to see you. Thanks for showing up. And I look forward to hearing from you. Have a good night. Bye.